The AI economy has changed what's possible for small and medium businesses. Access to tools, knowledge and expertise has never been greater, but access is no longer the advantage. The real difference now is in your capability, your human, leadership, business and digital capabilities, and that's what this podcast is all about. This is Make Time for business owners who want to lead rather than be led. Governance isn't the sexiest of words, is it? And for busy entrepreneurs and business owners, thinking about governance is often the last thing on their mind after attracting and serving their customers, managing their suppliers and or staff, and trying to fit in a life somewhere in there. But the problem with the increasing use of AI, not having governance around its use in your business may, what my dad might say, turn around and bite you in the bum. Welcome to this week's episode of Make Time, where I'll be helping those business owners who are thinking about integrating AI tools, ensure the technology works for them and not against them. I'm your host, Sam, and I'm passionate about helping you and your business thrive, and thank you for joining me this week. Maybe you've been using AI for a while now. Maybe you have started with something like ChatGPT for writing and research, or adding some automation, connecting a few tools to help you move faster on the administrative side. And perhaps you're getting value from it. What many business owners have not yet considered is making 3 specific decisions that will determine whether that AI use compounds capability over the next few years or gradually creates a set of problems you eventually have to stop and undo. These decisions don't take long. They don't require a compliance team or legal review, but they do require clarity and a document that you can update over time and share with others who need to understand it. So what are those 3 decisions, and what do the consequences of skipping them look like in practice? EY's AI Sentiment Index is a large-scale annual survey that they run across 15 countries. In their most recent study, they included over 1,000 Australian workers specifically. The finding was that 68% of Australian computer-based workers used AI in the past month, but only 35% had received any formal training or guidance on how to use it. Now, the EY data may be more skewed towards larger businesses, but the number tells a bit of a story that I've found is quite consistent with people that I talk to too. A lot of people are using AI, many are using it without their boss's awareness. And as EY found, only 35% any kind of guidance on what they should be doing with it. If you have staff, this could mean that your people are already using AI in some fashion. For the 65% of people using AI without any guidance or governance, the tools are already connected, data's already going in, decisions are already being shaped by AI outputs. This is happening without any structured thinking about what the tools should and should not be used for, who is accountable for the outputs, and what data the tools are allowed to process. Now, for most businesses, that's not an immediate crisis. The tools are useful, they're saving time, and the obvious problems have not yet surfaced. But every week that passes without these 3 decisions being made is another week of AI use building habits and precedents and data flows that are harder to change later. And for a small business who's in their early stages, this compounding is particularly significant. You're still forming the structure and habits that will determine how your business operates for the next several years. The decisions you make now about AI, including the decisions you don't consciously make, will shape that structure. This is why timing matters. The cost of making these decisions now is quite low. The cost of making them later, when the AI use in your business is more embedded, goes up substantially. In 2025, a G7 working group produced a governance toolkit specifically for small businesses that are deploying AI. Deploying means to strategically place, position, or put something into effective action. This term was used originally in the military, moving soldiers or equipment into specific formation ready for battle, but it's now widely used across business, software engineering, and everyday context. So when someone says deploy, and in this context, when we say about deploying AI, it's aimed at those putting AI into practice using commercially available systems, not building AI, deploying it, which is what the vast majority of small business owners are doing when they use ChatGPT or Canva AI or any other commercially available AI tool. The toolkit was developed with input from more than 250 participants across 26 countries, representing governments, industry bodies, and businesses of all sizes. And they identified 3 core challenges that every small business deploying AI needs to address. Instead of considering them as challenges, I've translated them into 3 plain decisions, because I think decision language is more useful than challenge language when you're running a business. So the first decision you need to make is, what data does this AI touch? Before you deploy any AI tool in your business, document what it has access to. What data goes in? Is it customer information, internal communications, financial details, operational processes? What does the tool do with that data? Is it used to train the model? Is it stored by the provider? What country is it stored in? What legal jurisdictions are in place? Is it processed in a particular country? Who else might see what you put in? I'm not saying you have to create a formal data register or a compliance document, although if you do work in complex industries, I'd highly recommend it. Rather, it's a sort of single shared note that records what each AI tool you're using has access to. This act of creating it makes visible decisions you may not have realized you were making. You might discover that a tool you've been using casually for client work is storing that information in a way that you'd not intended. You might realize that 3 different people on your team are using 3 different tools with 3 different data access levels with no consistency. And I think this is a really useful task for any of your tech platforms, especially if data privacy and security are important to you. The second decision is, what workflow does this AI operate in? AI tools produce outputs, artifacts like documents or proposals, responses, summaries, recommendations, code. These outputs get used in your business. They might get sent to clients, acted on by your team. When an output is wrong or misleading or causes a problem, the AI tool is not accountable. A person needs to be. Mapping where AI sits in your workflow means deciding who reviews an AI output before it goes anywhere, what standard it needs to meet, and what happens if it gets something wrong. If you're in the early stages of business, that person is almost certainly you, but naming it explicitly is different from just assuming it. It converts your casual habit into a considered decision. And as your business grows and team members start and they start using AI independently, this kind of accountability needs to grow with it. Establishing the habit now is significantly easier than retrofitting it when the business has more people and more complexity. The third decision is, what are the boundaries? Every business should be able to answer this question really clearly. What will we not use AI for and why? If you're an early stage business, again, this list it can be short and practical. Confidential client information will not go into public AI models. AI will not make decisions that require human judgment without a human reviewing the recommendation first. We will not generate content for social media. If your business is more mature, there may be a lot more for you to consider. And these aren't policies in a formal sense, rather they're decisions that are made once and then you write them down and you review them periodically. The G7 working group found something worth noting. A single spreadsheet reviewed quarterly is sufficient governance for most small businesses at this stage. The value isn't in the sophistication of the document, it's in the act of deciding, because deciding means you've thought about it, you've written it down, and you have something to return to when a new tool comes up or a new team member joins. These 3 decisions, what data, what workflow, what boundaries, are what larger organizations called AI governance. For smaller businesses, the scale is different, but the decisions are exactly the same. So what happens without these decisions? This is what we've been hearing and reading about. An example, a team member uses an AI tool to get help with a task and, without meaning to, copies confidential client information into a public AI system. They don't tell you at the time, but the time you find out, the data has already been processed by the model. The issue is not that the team member was careless, it's that no one had made the decision about what data could and could not go into the public AI tools. There was no boundary, so the boundary defaulted to whatever each person thought was reasonable. Another example is a proposal goes out that was substantially AI generated. The client notes that it feels generic and that several specifics are not quite right for their situation. AI had generated plausible sounding, well-structured content, but it wasn't checked carefully against the actual context before it was sent. The relationship is affected. The issue is not that AI was used, it's that the workflow decision about what review process happens before AI output goes out had not been made. So the review defaulted to whatever each person had time for in the moment. But the client relationship is now tarnished and the likelihood of winning future work impacted. And a note about recognizing AI-generated content. I've been working with AI models for almost 6 years, and I can spot AI writing a mile off, and others can too. It's always best for you to lead and AI to review. In another example, a potential client or partner in a particular sector asks about your AI use policy. You don't have a clear answer. For businesses trying to work with government agencies, defence contractors, financial services firms, health organisations, or larger enterprises that have their own AI governance requirements, this question is no longer theoretical. There are sectors where AI use without documented governance is already a factor in procurement decisions, and not being able to answer the question clearly creates uncertainty that works against you. None of these situations require sophisticated systems to prevent, and could be answered with your responses to those 3 decisions made before the tools were deployed. The regulatory environment around AI is moving, and it's worth keeping an eye on what that means for a small business. Deloitte's 2026 State of AI in the Enterprise survey found that high maturity AI adopters differ from low maturity adopters, primarily on clarity of AI strategy and deliberate organisational design, rather than on which technology you have access to. The businesses building durable AI capability are the ones where decisions about how AI operates were made before scale, not scrambled together afterwards. Put simply, those benefiting from AI the most are the ones who know exactly why, when, and how they are and will use AI in their business before they embed it. It's like setting the right foundations before you build the house. The decisions you make about your foundations determine what's possible to build on top of them. If those decisions are made early and deliberately, AI in your business compounds your capability. If they're not made, AI builds patterns and precedents and data flows that create a structural problem you may eventually have to stop and address. And the cost of stopping to fix this later is disproportionately high relative to the cost of getting it right now, especially for early stage businesses. At this stage of your business, 2 hours in a shared document is enough. 6 months or a year from now, with more tools, more team members, and more embedded habits, the same clarity takes significantly more work to establish. The businesses that will build genuine AI capability over the next 2 to 3 years are the ones making considered decisions about AI now, at the early stage when the cost of establishing clarity is still low. If you're a business owner who is already using AI, here is what I suggest as a practical next step. And it's a next 2 hours kind of task rather than a next quarter project. Work through those 3 decisions I've outlined today and write your answers down. And this doesn't have to be formal or perfect. It can be just for yourself and for your team if you have one. What data does each AI tool you are currently using have access to? What workflow does each tool sit in, and who is accountable for reviewing its outputs? And what have you decided AI will not do in your business? Write those answers down, put them in a shared document, set a reminder to review it in 3 months, and that's it. That's the foundation. If you'd like more understanding about AI and how this can impact your business, we have a free video series and templates called The Introduction to AI for Small Business, and the link is in the show notes. Getting the right foundations in place before you build the house is not a constraint on how quickly you move. It will determine how stable and how sustainable your house will be into the future. Thank you for listening, and hope to see you next week. Thanks for joining me on this week's episode of Make Time. Every week this season, we're going deeper on what genuine capability development looks like for small business leaders in the AI economy. If you found this episode valuable, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. To help other small business leaders, we'd love for you to leave a review or share this episode with them. And if you haven't done so already and want to know specifically where your capability gaps are, the 25-8 Small Business Capability Gap is our complimentary diagnostic tool. The link is in the show notes. It'll help you decide exactly where to focus so you can work smarter, not harder. And see you on next week's episode of Make Time.